Hey guys, welcome to Chase the Unknown. Today we have Alexander from Curiosity Inc.
That's us, or Curiosity Incorporated.
Okay, Curiosity Incorporated. We're so glad to have you on the show. Yeah.
We know that your store is an antique store, correct?
That's, among, it seems, other things lately. But yeah, antiques is the main focus of the business, 100%.
All right. So how did you get into doing antiques?
Well, I got into buying and selling antiques. I always had an interest in old stuff. Even when I was a kid, I was 8, 9 years old and I wanted a top hat that popped out and I felt like I needed a 3-piece suit. And I don't know, I had different ambitions than your average 9-year-old kid. So I always kind of liked antique stuff. I remember going to the library as a kid and opening books on the Titanic. And in the 80s, they came out with this great book and they went, when they went down to the Titanic the first time and you could see all the stuff and I was thinking, wow. And the part of me when I was a kid was looking at it going, whoa, it's a shipwreck. And the other part was going, those dishes are still good. I can bring that stuff up and use it. And I think it kind of stuck with me from that age, just wanting to go around and find things that maybe were neglected or the people overlooked and try and bring them back to life.
I mean, I remember because I really watch your YouTube channel. That's how I found you. And I saw the episode with the journal from the 17 or 1800s.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how you came across that?
Yeah. So that was he was an Irish nobleman named Harmer Spratt, and it was his personal journal during basically the end of the American Revolution, going through the Irish Rebellion. There was multiple battles happening all over the place, Admiral Nelson. Anyway, it was a really interesting book. How I came by it was that I was in my store and a guy walked in with a file box with a bunch of teacups and that book. And he said, we had a yard sale and this stuff didn't sell. Are you interested? And I said, well, I don't know with the teacups, but what's with the book? He said, I don't know. It's some old captain's log. I'm like, well, that sounds cool. And so he gave me a price and I paid it. And then I started going through it and then realized, wow, there's a lot of historic events in here that, beautiful artistic drawings that he did of ships in battle and just a really, really interesting piece of history. And that just goes to show, I mean, he had it out at a garage sale for a whole weekend and nobody bought it. He thought it was basically like, if it wasn't going to be me, it probably would have made its way to a thrift store. He just wanted it out of his life. And thankfully it ended up being me. And we went through it and verified it was authentic. And it was just a beautiful book. It did end up going to a private collector. But yeah, wonderful, wonderful piece. I love coming across a piece of history like that.
That's really amazing. Do you have any specific, what for you would be like the holy grail of antiques if you were to find it? I know a person would normally think of things. And for me, I guess I really love going out and meeting people. And I know that sounds like sort of the cop-out answer that it's about the people, not about the things. Truly, it is about meeting people and going on these adventures. Every time I go in somebody's barn or their basement, I uncover some piece of history that was lost forever. That's fun for me. It's a lot of fun. I would love to be able to, I love real cars. I love old cars. I've got several antique cars myself. I guess the holy grail find for me would be if I went into somebody's, barn and there was an old, Ferrari or 60s Jaguar or something like that that was under it. And they're like, just take it out of here. That would be pretty cool. Because you never know what people have stashed around. But, it would probably have to be like a real car would be the holy grail thing for me. Or better yet, if it was a real car full of like toy cars, because I also collect toy cars. So if it was old like Corgi movie cars or Matchbox toys or Hot Wheels. So let's see, it'd be like a 1963 Ferrari hidden in a barn under tarpaulin. When I open the door, just a bunch of old Hot Wheels come piling out of the door. They're like, oh, this is the dream. This is what I've been waiting for. Yeah, something like that. That's a lot of wheels. I guess things with wheels on them would appeal to me. Yeah.
That's funny. So is your wife okay with you buying all these different cars?
Define okay. She is very patient with me. I'll say that with buying these cars. For the most part, she knows that when I buy an old car, we get it at a price where we can afford to drive it and have fun with it. And I typically don't spend a whole pile of money. I'm not buying 63 Ferraris, but I did kind of spring one on her the other day, and I was in a little bit of the doghouse, but she came around to the idea, I think, later on. But mainly, I think it's because it was a wood paneled sort of station wagon, and she really doesn't like wood paneling on station wagons. It's like her nemesis. Her vehicle nemesis is what I actually wanted. So I bought the one car that she would think is probably hideous and ugly. But yeah, she's been a trooper, though. She's been really good about all this. And the other day, somebody asked me, they said, "Oh, your wife must have killed you," because I brought home a guy dropped off a trailer full of antiques. And this is what happened. I kind of made a deal with this guy, and I forgot about it. I was like, yeah, okay, well, I'd pay that amount of money. If you ever find yourself in town, bring it by. And I had given my home address. And so we got a knock on the door. This is maybe 4 or 5 days ago. Well, it wasn't a knock. It was a doorbell. Ding dong. So he rang the doorbell. And we were eating pizza upstairs. I'm like, that's weird. I don't know if I'm expecting anybody. And it was him. And my wife, Melissa, is like, well, who's at the door? I'm like, oh, it's a guy. I'll be right back. So we spent I don't know, probably 20 minutes just hand bombing all these totes and crates and stuff into the garage, to the point where I thought I might get myself in trouble. And I had to kind of preface it with my wife. I said, have you been in the garage lately? Have you looked in there? She's like, why? I'm like, well, if you look, just know I have a plan. I have a plan for all this stuff. I bought 52 plastic totes and boxes and other stuff, even more than that, full of World War I, World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam military stuff. Basically enough to start my own surplus store. But she was cool about it. She was like, okay, well, if you got a plan, that's all right with me. And so I had it sold within 24 hours. So it's gone. Yeah, it's all out of the garage now.
Wow, all that sold within 1 day.
Yeah, it was enough to fill a double car garage basically up 6 feet high, all across the whole garage.
Oh my God.
Wow. Did it go to what? Did one person come and buy it? Like one big collector, or was it like multiple collectors?
One big collector. Well, he's not a collector. He's another antique dealer. And
okay.
For me, I'm fortunate having a store that I get calls from people who have collections they want to sell, and they might need to sell it right away. For other people who are dealers at antique malls, which is his case, or they kind of just deal on the side, it's harder for them to find the leads. And so when I get a big lead like that, I don't mind turning it loose to somebody else if it means I can make money on it. We basically doubled our money on it in less than a day. So for me, that was fine. I could have tripled or quadrupled my money, but it would have taken a year or 2, 3 years to do it. And for me, that was way too much stuff. I didn't want to sit on it for that long. So double my money in 24 hours, that's fine. Move the money into something else and keep pressing along.
So it sounds like your family is very supportive of you opening an antique store.
Yeah, it was my wife's idea for me to basically leave my real job and to do it. We were kind of chatting. I was feeling I don't know, sometimes you get into a place where you're at work and you feel like you're a little bit stuck, or you feel like, in my case, I felt like I was just like this cog in this big machine that was just going to keep going around and around. And I didn't feel like I was having as much fun in my life as I wanted to have. And so my wife and I were talking, my wife being Melissa. So if I talk about Melissa, it's not another woman, it's my wife. Okay. Yes. Or maybe I'll call him Milady. When Milady and I were talking, and I don't have a curly E back then. When Melissa and I were chatting about what to do to open the store, I said, well, I'd like to do that when I retire. And she basically said, well, why wait until you retire? Let's do it. So we took some of our savings, we bought a little commercial building, and opened up a store. And that's really how the whole YouTube thing came around, is that we opened up this business and the cost of advertising was really high. Even just to have a little blurb in a newspaper, which who reads a newspaper anymore, but even to put ads on Facebook, it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And we tried a few ads and we weren't getting the result that we wanted. And I thought, I'm just going to focus on social media. So we posted on Instagram, posted on Facebook. We started building a little bit of a following. And then I thought, well, I had a day at the store that was really slow, and I was kind of feeling bummed out. I'm like, here, I left my job, it's supposed to be my dream. Nobody's coming through today. And I was like, I'm either going to sit here and I'm going to be bummed out about this, or I'm going to advertise. So I did this little kind of commercial about, I don't know, like a 2-minute or 3-minute long thing about, this coffee mill that we had in the store. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the beginning of it. I was just showing off some products in the store and kind of walking around. And I did the YouTube videos mainly at the shop when I had downtime, and posted them to YouTube because it was easier to post it from YouTube to Facebook. So to do a proper video.
Okay.
and we went on this adventure. I went to a town called Winnipeg, or a city called Winnipeg, not too far. Well, actually, it was very far. It was 12 and a half, 13 hours away from here. So it was a bit of a drive. And I bought an old Mercedes-Benz ambulance from the 1960s. And I filmed like the trip and us stopping at like roadside attractions and I'm really bad with dad jokes. I wouldn't say good. I'm bad with dad jokes. I have no control over them. So I'm cracking like my dad jokes and stuff. And then I buy this car and it's a horrible piece of junk. And I said, oh, that's, the worst car I probably ever bought in my life. And we brought it back anyway. Well, that video, we went from having probably, 10 or 15 views on the previous videos. That one, I think, hit like 100,000 views in 2 or 3 days. And I was like, what's going on? And then we weren't even monetized on YouTube at that time. So that video basically put us over the subscriber count, and we were able to monetize the channel. But it was, that's the one video that kind of pushed us over. And then it went from, 10, 15,000 subscribers. And I think we're up to 312,000 or something like that now. So we'd like to get to 1 million at some point. Next stop is 500,000. And then after that, it's 1 million. But, have a ways to go. But we've been very fortunate that we've had a few really good series kind of take off where we did some renovations, and it's just been a lot of fun.
Actually, that's how I found you. Is I started watching you right around the time you started the Potter's House.
Oh yeah, did you start with the first episode? Or you
I think I found you about episode 2 or 3.
Oh, probably.
So I went back and watched it all.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You were asking how is my wife with me buying things. I'll tell you how that happened. Basically, some people that we knew, customers of ours, we used to have a store before. We had a store selling toys. We had a toy store. I don't know how to explain it. It was a toy store. We sold toys. That's what we did. We had a toy store at a shopping mall. And that was over a decade ago. And a customer of ours from that store saw me on the news for helping a homeless gentleman. And they came into the store and they said, we wanted to see who owned this store in town because it looked like they had neat stuff. And they're like, it's you. And I'm like, hey guys, how's it going? Hadn't seen them in like 10 years. And they said, well, they were walking all around the store. And they said, well, if you like all this kind of stuff, you got to come check out our mom's place because it is packed and we're going to just tear it down. And, there's nothing good in there probably. But I said, well, before you tear it down, at least let me come out and have a look. So I positioned it as, they said it's a bunch of garbage. It's a bunch of junk. There's nothing in there of value. It's a garbage dump. It's a hoarder house. There's not going to be anything in there of value. And I said, oh, listen, what I find is that she was 102. I said, if she was 102 years old and she kept all her garbage from 60, 70 years ago, old, like Tim's, no, I just happen to have a prop, but old like tea tins or stuff that's perceived as garbage from a long time ago could have value. So I said, even her garbage might be collectible at this point. So I said, let me come up and have a look. So about a month went by. And we finally had one day where it was supposed to be warmer. And they said, well, why don't you come out and have a look? So I drove out there. It was a 3-hour drive out to this town. I'd never been there before in my life, the town of Provost. And I get out there. And for us, it was the middle of winter, but it was warm that day. It was 1 degree Celsius, which is, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. It was just
it's about 33, 34 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah. At the point where it's just about like there's still water on the ground, but it could freeze at any minute. Like it's just at that threshold of freezing. So what, 32 to 34, something like that?
Yeah, I think, because 0 degrees Celsius is 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, there you go. Then that's what it was. That was a warm day in January for us. So we went out there and walk in the house, and it was like, wow, and I think I had my camera going. So I think I said something like, well, she's certainly making good use of her space, because it was packed. You don't want to be disrespectful, you go in someone else's house, right? So you just kind of take it in and you're going, okay. And nothing bothers me. Like it could be a hoarder house. It could be a barn full of junk. And other people look at it and go, I would not go anywhere near there. And I just look around and go, there's probably something in here. So we're looking around and they said, I found basically a whole car full of stuff. I took my old ambulance out and I had it full up to the roof. And I was thinking, okay, well, with what I pulled out of that house already, it was going to probably be like $4 or $5 grand worth of stuff that I took out. And I said, well, what do you want for everything? Like, what if I just took everything? And they said, well, would you be interested in the whole house? That way you can go through it and take your time. I was like, well, sure. So they came back to me with the price on the house. And it included the stuff that I already had picked out the day before. And we made a deal. And so I phoned my wife and I said, well, we didn't make a deal yet. I talked to Melissa beforehand and I said, I'm out. I said, you know how we came out here looking at antiques? Well, the whole house is packed. The price is pretty good. It's basically around, they're charging about what the cost of the lot would be. Should we do it? And she said, well, I guess worst case scenario, we just tear the house down and we still have that lot we could sell. So fine, go for it. And so we did. And it ended up just being this amazing adventure. And it was full of rare artwork and pottery and antiques and collectibles. It wasn't, and then you uncover the story of Mary herself, who was this amazing artist who represented Canada at the Olympics, and her legacy had sort of been lost. In fact, a lot of people didn't even know she was still alive because they hadn't heard from her in 30, 40 years. And so getting her legacy back out there was much more that came from that adventure than just cleaning up a house. We were able to help bring some dignity back to a lovely lady who was an amazing and talented artist who we befriended. We got to know her very well before she passed. She had a wonderful sense of humor. And they said, Alex, she doesn't like very many people, but she likes you. I said, well, I'll take that as a compliment. But she kind of, I don't know, we had a good connection. And she wanted to ride, and I have a Ghostbusters car that we drive around in. And every time I'd go to visit her and I had that car with me, she would look out the window at the seniors home when I go to visit and she'd say, I want to go for a ride in that car. I said, don't worry, Mary, we'll take you for a ride in the car. And I was all geared up to go and pick her up in the car, and we were going to take her to the house and show her the house. I'd been cleaning the house and getting ready to show her because she hadn't seen it cleaned out in a really long time, probably over 40 years. And the care home that she was at, they said it was too dangerous. It might be too hard on her. And she was saying, well, I'm 102. Life is already pretty short for me. Let me go. And they didn't let her go. And sadly, she passed away shortly after. So she never did get to see her house. I showed her pictures of the inside of it. But we fulfilled her last wish and we drove her in the ambulance. And that's what I used to take her to the cemetery, was our Ghostbuster car based on her wish. Every time she would want to get wheeled out and look at the car every time I brought it by. And she just thought it was really cool. But she was a fun lady. That's the type of lady she was. She was fun. Okay. Feeding bears by hand in the parks when she was a kid, riding a Harley Davidson motorcycle. Not many girls in their 20s back in the 1920s or 30s were doing that kind of stuff.
No.
Like going through the pictures that I was finding in the house, pictures of her operating Caterpillar bulldozers, and she's 18 or 19 with a big smile riding a bulldozer. She wasn't afraid of anything. But fun lady, and it was just a great, great story. I'm glad you found us during that video series too.
Yeah, I did. It was beautiful because I'm a huge fan of fixer-uppers. So when I saw you guys were renovating a house, I was like, well, that sounds cool. And then you started getting into the whole, antiques, and then you started singing and all that stuff. And I was just like, this is a cool person anyway.
Yeah, I didn't say. Oh, I guess I did sing during that. I checked in at the motel and they booked me in.
Yeah, you sang at the motel.
Yeah. Let me tell you what a surprise that was when I showed up and they had me as the headliner. I've never played on stage in front of people before. And then I had to play a gig. So I'm up on stage with my guitar, just basically figuring, I played all the songs that I knew. And then they were like, go, keep going. And they're rowdy because it was St. Patrick's Day nonetheless. So every person from every small town was there. The population of that town is probably 50 and there was probably 400 people in that bar. I don't know where they came from, but they came from somewhere. They were all dressed up in green and they were having a much better time that evening than I was. I was just trying to learn songs on my phone as I went. And they're giving me requests and I'm figuring it out. Anyway, it was an experience that I'll have for the rest of my life. That's for sure.
That's definitely amazing.
Yeah.
That's really neat. You mentioned earlier that there was a homeless gentleman that you had helped.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you said, tell us a little bit more about that. And where is he at today, if you know?
Sure. Well, his name is Adam. Okay. I guess I'll give you the background on that story if you're not familiar. I don't know if you are Trinity or not, but
I am familiar with it, but I don't think
you're a little bit familiar. Okay. This was prior to doing that Potter's House series. We were in the store, and in the area I was in, I had a gentleman who would come by every so often, and he was homeless. And we would have people from the homeless community come in. What they do is they go and they dig through dumpsters. And if they find something that maybe somebody threw out when they're moving or whatever, they'd bring it in, see if it had value. And then, maybe it's $5, $10, $15 or more, depending on what it is. And really have a policy of excluding anybody from the store. We try and be very inclusive and invite everybody in. So when Adam came in, and he had previously sold us some things, like he'd sold us little toys that he found, or one time he came in and he had like really beautiful condition antique dollar bills that had, probably never been circulated, that somebody threw away in the trash, that I guess they were inside of a book and then they threw the book out. So he occasionally brought me stuff in, and it would always be like, I'd buy it whether I felt I needed it or not sometimes, because he just needed a couple bucks for food. And one time he came in and he brought in this plastic bag, like a grocery bag, and it was kind of slimy and gross, and I didn't want to really look through it. And I went, well, there's not much in here, but there was a picture of Bambi, like an old broken kind of frame with a picture of Bambi inside of it, like from the Disney movie Bambi. Not some woman named Bambi. I don't know. You probably know the Disney movie anyway. So he brings this thing in, and I say, okay, well, the picture's kind of cool. I guess I could do like $20. He said, okay, that's fine. He took the $20 and off he went. Because I thought it was like just a replica from the 1980s, just like some sort of picture of Bambi. I didn't think anything of it. I thought, well, I can't sell it with that frame that had been in the trash because it looked really gross. So I went to take it out of the frame. And I pulled the back off and realized that it was an authentic 1939 animation cell from the original movie. So it wasn't just like a replica, and it wasn't just a picture. It was an actual part of the actual movie. And so I thought, okay, well, this is a little bit more special. I didn't know, was it worth 100, 200, 300? And I found another one online that was similar to mine. And it said, it's always expensive. It's the dollar sign. It says POA, like price on inquiry or whatever. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But so they said, basically just call us or email us and we'll tell you what the price is. So I wrote him and I said, well, what are you guys asking for yours? He said, $3,700. I went, what? And so I kind of sat there for a minute. I thought, that's all right. Like this thing is worth a lot more than what I paid for it. I got to find this guy, and whatever I sell it for, I'll put it on eBay and we'll split it 50-50. Thinking, well, maybe it'll go for a few $100. Like maybe that guy's price was out to lunch. Maybe it wouldn't go for that. Who knows? So I say, I'm gonna put the proceeds up. We're gonna do 50-50 on it or whatever. And it goes, I put it on eBay, and it sells for, I don't know, $3,800 or something like that. And I think, okay, that's a lot of money. So now I got to find the guy, because if it didn't sell or it only went for $10, so no point. So I drove around for 2 weeks up and down every single alley in my neighborhood trying to find this guy, because he didn't have a house. It's not easy. You can't call him. I had his email address, but he only checked his email when he went to the library on occasion. So I drove up and down every morning before work. I had a Volkswagen van. So it was me and my hippie van driving up and down back alleys, looking at missions, going everywhere trying to find him, until I finally found a guy. I would ask people in the area. I'd say, do you know Adam? He's about this tall. And finally one person said, yeah, I know him. I see him around. I said, when you see him next, you tell him to come in and find me. So they said, okay. About a week went by and he finally came in. So I was able to, what we did is we gave him half the money in cash. And then I decided that I wasn't going to keep my half of it. I used the other half to get him sent home. So we bought a train ticket for him because he didn't have ID. So we couldn't get him on an airplane, but we could get him on via rail. Anyway, I drove him around. I got him paper ID, like temporary ID. We bought him some new clothes. I put him in a hotel. We took him out for a really nice meal. I took him to a buffet and he was like, what? It was pretty awesome. But long story short, Adam is doing very well right now. He's no longer homeless. We're in touch. Like, he's a friend of mine now. He's basically the same age as me too. But not only is he no longer homeless, he now operates and owns a company that does drywalling, has a company vehicle, and I think he's got 8 guys working for him, including his estranged son, who he hasn't seen in several years. So he is back on top. He's got a company, he's got contracts, he's got work. His son is working for him. His family thought he was dead. Like, they hadn't heard from him in several years, fell on hard times, and they just thought he fell off the face of the planet. And in a way he did. But he's back at it. And we did an update video, I want to say this past Christmas. I went out there to visit him. And it was just a really beautiful visit, and got to spend some time with him. We went out to some antique malls and went, checking out some stuff, and it was just fun. So he's doing really well.
Good for Adam. Yay.
I love stories like that. I feel like I could cry right now. Like I'm just so happy for him.
This is the second time I've almost cried during this interview. I just want you to know.
Yeah, we've been fortunate. There's been a few occasions where we've run into some folks that have needed a little bit of a leg up, and we've been able to offer them that help too. I mean, our YouTube viewers essentially bought one of our regulars on our channel a house, and that was kind of crazy. So that was, you know, if you watched the Potter's House series, you probably saw there was a guy named Hans who'd appeared. That he's like the happy Viking.
That one.
he's got like a really big laugh. Anyway, yeah, we didn't realize that Hans was living in an unheated pull-behind like trailer, like a little camper kind of trailer. His house had burnt down several years ago, and so we did a GoFundMe just to get him heat for his trailer because it was unheated. And we ended up raising so much money, he was able to actually buy him a whole house.
Wow.
So, yeah. So it's crazy that you can use social media for really great things, but you have to do it in small doses. You can't do it every single day of the week. But I think when those honest opportunities arise that you're able to help somebody and those moments present themselves. And in that moment with Hans, as with Adam, like I knew that I didn't want to keep that guy's money. I could have just kept the money and said nothing, but I didn't feel right. It was not mine to take. He's the one who found it. And I felt like, I should give back. And frankly, helping him out. And we did a GoFundMe for Adam too. We raised him $18,000 and that got him off the streets for a whole year, and got him so he could set his life back up again. But you know, when you have these opportunities, you can either decide to do something or do nothing. And when we're given the chance, we try and do something whenever we can.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just love that story.
Yeah.
Like it's so sweet because that's what this podcast is kind of about, is to encourage people to follow their dreams regardless of what they are.
If there's one thing I've learned in the past few years, it's that life is very short and very temporary. And if you're not doing something that you love to do, then you're missing out on what the most important things in life are. And that's a feeling of fulfillment, a feeling of joy. It's very easy to go in for a paycheck. And sometimes you get a really good paycheck, and some people are just fine working in a paycheck. I don't want to discourage people from working for money, but you should be doing something or filling your life with joy in any way you can, whether it's with your hobbies or whether it's with your career or whether it's your side hustle, whatever it is. Try and fill your life with as much joy as possible. I guess to give some context, you asked earlier about when or why did I start buying antiques. Well, around that time when I was 9 or 10 years old, my family and I were also homeless. And we were living on friends' couches or in motel rooms or bouncing all around. And it was a really challenging time. And that sense of having temporary housing or not having much, you know, that was kind of my childhood for a while. As much as my parents were very loving, very caring people, they had some difficulties trying to take care of the bills sometimes. And I think that became a necessity for me to try and find creative ways to help them and to kind of keep some revenue coming in even as a kid. You've been in that situation where you've had pretty much nothing, and you've grown and developed from that. You don't feel like you have as much to lose. You know that you've been at the rock bottom before and you survived. So you feel like taking risks aren't as scary or as dangerous. You know, when I left my job, I was a manager at a pretty major company, and I was making good money. Like I had a 6-figure job and all the benefits and everything. And you think a person at that spot in your life, you should be happy. But that was probably one of the most miserable times of my life that I was in, because I felt like I was going nowhere. I felt like I was going to be stuck there forever doing the same exact thing, and not progressing in my life. And that was really depressing. Plus, when you're inside of a store and you just look around and you don't have windows, you can't see outside. And I love being on the road and I love seeing and meeting different people. I knew I had to find some kind of job that was going to be more like that. And this ended up being it. You know, to go from being a kid who was homeless and had nothing. And I had a grade 7 health teacher who asked us all to go home for an assignment and find out what our parents made, if you can believe that. He said, tell us what your parents make a year. And when he saw mine, he said, you're going to be poor. You're never going to go anywhere. You're never going to do anything. That's what he said to me. And, you know, he'd probably be the type of guy that if I met him now, he'd be like, oh, it's because I told you that you're doing well now. No, that's not the case. That was just really depressing and disheartening for a kid to hear. But now we're in a spot that since leaving my job and starting our own business, we own 2 commercial properties. We own 2 houses. We've got, I don't know, 6 cars or something. Things are fine. And so that dream that I had when I was a kid without a home, and I did a little list up of things that I thought were important to me at that time. Like I said, I was a normal kid, so probably had a top hat on there somewhere. But felt like I need a top hat. And then once I got the top hat, then I had very specific things too. I remember I had on my list rolled arm camelback couch, because I went to some fancy hotel once when I was a kid and I thought that was the fanciest couch I ever saw in my life. But I had all these things. So you start checking these little things off your list, things that you think are important. And I just wanted to be normal. You go to friends' birthday parties when you're a kid and you can't invite them over to your house because you either, you don't have a house, or the place you're at, you don't have furniture. So I couldn't invite people over to my place. I was always kind of embarrassed. But when I went to other friends' houses, I just wanted that sense of normal, Someday I just want to be normal job with a normal house, with a garage. And then you get that and you're like, well, I wonder if I could do more than this. And then you just keep pushing yourself further and further. And so for anybody out there who is wanting to follow their dreams or to live their life, the only person that's holding you back is you. There's nobody else out there who's going to stand in your way. And if they are, they're not part of your journey. Move past that person, and you got to push through barriers, and you can't take no for an answer. When we bought our current building that our store is in, it was zoned as an apartment building. And we were told that it couldn't be zoned as a store again. Well, we fought that, and we went to city council and we met with the mayor, and we got it zoned to be a store. So it's a store now. And now we're going through the same thing, trying to get it zoned so I could build a structure on the side, because now I want to build a building and put up an ice cream parlor. So you can't let people speed bumps are one thing. You can go over speed bumps, and sometimes you can go over speed bumps. It can be fun. But if somebody puts a brick wall in front of you, you just got to knock it down and keep going. It's just, life is too short to wonder what if. And there's so many people out there who have these wonderful ideas and dreams and want to, live differently, and are afraid to because they're worried about the consequence of it. And I say, set yourself up for success. We didn't open this business until we had some money set aside to do it. But set yourself up for success, learn the skills, do the research you need to do, but then take small risks and work towards the bigger ones. And you'll feel like at least you're working towards your goals and trying to do something fun and really fulfilling with your life.
That is awesome. That's awesome. I guess, and that actually, we were talking about that previously on an episode, is but not listening when somebody says you can't do this.
Yeah. And when somebody says no, it's almost my instinct to try and push back instantly. Well, why? Just because you said so? They told me that I couldn't build on my property because, at first they said the fire hydrant is too far apart. And then I said, okay, well, come measure it then. Why you can't? And then they said, well, we can't put out a fire. I said, oh, so you're saying you can't put out a fire? Well, as a taxpayer, I believe I pay for that. So then you get them kind of into that conversation where it's it turns out, okay, they can put out a fire. The fire hydrants aren't too far apart. It's just some bylaw that was written. So now we're at a stage right now where they're just trying to amend the bylaw that allows for development in older areas. So it won't just benefit me, it'll benefit the entire city that I live in, to amend this bylaw that got passed a few years ago that basically wiped out the possibility of development in older areas. So sometimes you have to rewrite the rule book. When somebody says, no, that's not what the rules are, you can say, well, how do we fix the rules? Somebody wrote those rules. They were wrong. Let's fix it. Take it to city council, talk to the mayor. Sure, we'll do all that. You just got to keep pushing.
Oh, that's a solid advice. And I really appreciate you saying that, because it just helps for other people to really take that to heart. And then they can just go and do whatever their dream is, whether that be an antique store or TV and film or whatever it is.
Whatever their dream might be. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who have dreams too. Some people say, I really wish I could learn how to play the guitar or play the piano. Well, you don't have to quit your job to do that either. What I did was kind of more extreme, where I walked away from my whole career to try something different. But most people can follow that feeling of contentment that they're missing or lacking just by adding a couple extra hours onto their routine a week. They could start to feel that just by making some small changes every single week. And anybody out there who's feeling like they're lacking or missing something in their lives, they just have to go back and watch the Bill Murray movie Groundhog Day. And, you know, that's how you kind of feel like you're living the same day over and over until you realize you're not making good use of your time. That's basically how I felt. And it's a great movie and metaphor for how you should live your life to the fullest.
Yeah. And as like you said, every little bit counts, you know, adding just a few hours onto your routine. Life's a game of inches, you know.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we appreciate you so much. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so we are going to have to wrap this up. But we really do appreciate you coming on and speaking with us. It's a great honor to have you.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you so much for having me, guys.
Is there anything you wanted to say? Any last words to everybody? Anything big coming up that you want to tell people about?
No. Well, I would say if they want to know what's happening in our world, check us out on YouTube under Curiosity Incorporated. You can check us out on Facebook under Curiosity Inc. Or on Instagram at Curiosity Inc. YEG. Those are the 3 places we're on social media. So if you want to see what's happening in our world, follow us on our social media and stay tuned because there's always something around the corner.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And for our audience, we will link that in the description box below. So you will just click on it.
Go check those links out, guys. All right.
Well, have a good day, guys.
Thanks everybody for joining us on Chase the Unknown.
And we'll catch you next time.
We'll be back to you next Wednesday with an all-new edition of Chase the Unknown. If you haven't followed us on Instagram and Facebook yet, we're at Right Time Productions. Make sure you check us out there. So until next Wednesday, don't forget to go chase your unknown. See you guys next week.